Jenna never saw it coming. One moment she was the devoted wife, building a life with Daniel, and the next, she was drowning in the aftermath of betrayal. Their 10-year marriage had seemed perfect from the outside. Successful business, beautiful mansion, and a love story that people envied. But behind the doors of their grand estate, the cracks had been forming for years. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. When Daniel's affair came to light, it wasn't just the betrayal that broke her. It was his arrogance. He flaunted his new relationship like a trophy, parading his much younger girlfriend, Vanessa, around town without a shred of remorse. Jenna felt her heart shatter, but more than that, she felt a fire ignite within her, a fire that whispered of revenge. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Daniel was relentless, determined to strip Jenna of everything she had helped build. He claimed the mansion, their investment properties, and even the business they had built together. Jenna, worn down and emotionally battered, barely fought back. But when the court ruled that she had to sell the mansion and split the proceeds with him, Jenna felt like the universe had turned its back on her. The night she moved out was suffocating. She walked through the empty halls, the walls echoing memories of laughter, love, and arguments that seemed so trivial now. In the master bedroom, where once they had dreamed of a future together, Jenna stood motionless. Her hands trembled as she picked up the last box, but her eyes caught something glinting from the dresser drawer. A set of old keys, ones she'd never seen before. Curiosity piqued. Jenna searched the house, trying each door and cabinet. Finally, in Daniel's private office, she unlocked the bottom drawer of his massive mahogany desk. Inside was a thick, bound file marked Property Ownership and Contracts. Jenna frowned, flipping through the pages, and felt her breath hitch when she reached the deed to the mansion. At the bottom, scribbled in Daniel's careless handwriting, was an unusual clause. Her heart raced as she read it again, making sure she wasn't seeing things. Buried in the legal jargon was a clause that declared Jenna as the primary owner of the mansion, and any business ventures developed on the estate grounds. It dawned on her that Daniel must have hastily drawn up the document when they first bought the place and forgot to adjust it when they opened their event hosting business years later. An idea took root. An idea so wild and satisfying that Jenna almost laughed out loud. Instead of confronting Daniel, she would play it cool. She finalized the sale of the mansion with no resistance, letting him gloat about his victory. He was smug, convinced he had bested her. He even hosted an extravagant reopening party with Vanessa at his side, raising glasses to new beginnings, as Jenna silently watched from the shadows, feigning defeat. But behind her calm demeanor, Jenna was orchestrating the ultimate revenge. With her lawyer's help, she had secretly reinforced the ownership clause and established a licensing agreement for any business activities conducted on the property. The event hosting company was thriving, raking in thousands every month, and Daniel had no idea that Jenna was still entitled to a major portion of those profits. A few months later, Daniel's accountant delivered the shocking news. Jenna received a royalty check for 70% of the earnings, an amount so substantial that Daniel's business plans were practically crippled. Jenna could only imagine his face when he found out, and for the first time in months, she felt at peace. Her ex-husband had thought he won, but the reality was far different. Jenna was not just surviving, she was thriving, and the world would soon know it. Daniel couldn't believe his eyes as he stared at the bank statement on his computer screen. The numbers just didn't add up. Revenue from the event hosting business was soaring, yet his take-home profit was a fraction of what he expected. He furiously punched numbers into his calculator, muttering curses under his breath. His phone buzzed, and it was his accountant again. Reluctantly, he picked up. "What the hell is going on, Mike?" Daniel snapped. "You told me the business would bring in at least 50 grand this month. I barely have half of that." There was an awkward pause on the other end. "Daniel, I've gone through every line item twice. I think you should sit down for this." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Just spit it out. The mansion's ownership clause. You overlooked it." Jenna is still legally entitled to 70% of the earnings from any business operated on the property. His heart sank to his stomach. That's impossible. I own the mansion outright now. She sold it to me after the divorce. No, actually. You forced her to sell it as part of the divorce settlement, but the business contract tied to the mansion wasn't affected. The clause wasn't updated. Legally, the event hosting revenue belongs mostly to her. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. You're saying I'm working my ass off to line Jenna's pockets? Basically, Mike replied almost apologetically. And if you shut down the hosting business, you'll have to pay her damages for loss of potential income. Type. I don't think there's a way out. Daniel's phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the desk. Vanessa wandered in, dressed in one of her designer outfits that he had paid for, sipping from a champagne flute. She took one look at his ashen face and raised a perfectly manicured eyebrow. What's your problem now? She asked, bored. Daniel shot her a glare. Jenna, that conniving bitch. She's robbing me blind. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Didn't you take everything from her already? I mean, you got the house, the business. What more could she possibly take? Apparently the money the business makes, Daniel growled. Vanessa let out a dismissive laugh. Serves you right for not reading the fine print. Maybe you shouldn't have been so eager to kick her out. His face reddened with anger, but he bit back his words. He knew it wasn't worth the fight. Instead, he stormed out, leaving Vanessa to finish her champagne alone. Across town, Jenna was sipping her own glass of wine, watching the sun set from the balcony of her new penthouse. The view was spectacular, endless city lights twinkling like stars, a far cry from the suffocating mansion where she'd once felt trapped. Her phone chimed with a message from her lawyer. Transfer complete. Another check will arrive next week. Let me know if you want to pursue damages for missed payments. Jenna smiled, taking a deep breath as satisfaction filled her chest. She had built that hosting business from scratch, handled the contracts, and kept the books meticulously. Daniel had never paid attention to the details. He just assumed he could strong-arm his way into keeping everything. But Jenna knew better. She had spent sleepless nights before the divorce, poring over contracts and protecting her interests, knowing that Daniel's greed would blind him. Now it was paying off, and she was savoring every second of it. As she scrolled through her phone, she couldn't resist checking social media. Vanessa's latest post caught her attention. A picture of the two of them at a fancy charity gala, looking blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. Jenna couldn't help but chuckle. Little did they know that every dollar they spent was partially hers. The best part was, Jenna wasn't done yet. There was still one more surprise lined up, something that would deliver the final blow. She wanted to make sure Daniel knew just how badly he had underestimated her. 1 week later, Daniel was stunned when he received a court summons. Jenna was claiming compensation for unpaid royalties from the first 3 months of operation, since Daniel had taken full control without giving her a share. He now owed her a lump sum of nearly $100,000. When Jenna's lawyer met him in court, Daniel tried to put on a confident front, but inside he was crumbling. The lawyer calmly presented each contract, pointing out Daniel's blatant breach of the agreement. Jenna herself didn't even have to show up. She was too busy planning her new venture, a high-end event company that would directly compete with the hosting business she technically still profited from. As the judge ruled in Jenna's favor, Daniel's lawyer leaned in, muttering under his breath, "You really screwed yourself with this one, Daniel." He didn't respond. What could he say? His empire was crumbling, and Jenna wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. As he left the courtroom, paparazzi swarmed him, shouting questions about his financial troubles and his latest failed venture. Jenna, meanwhile, enjoyed every news headline that followed. Daniel's reputation was shredded, his finances bleeding dry, and his new girlfriend less than supportive now that his wealth was slipping away. Jenna couldn't help but feel triumphant, knowing that Daniel's arrogance had been his downfall. Her phone buzzed again with a notification, a message from an old friend from their social circle. I just heard. You really did it. Bravo. Jenna smiled. She didn't just have the last laugh. She had the ultimate victory. Months passed, and Daniel's life continued to unravel. The fallout from the court case had left his business reputation in tatters. The local media feasted on the story of how the once powerful entrepreneur had lost everything to his ex-wife through his own negligence. Clients began withdrawing their bookings from the mansion's event hosting service, and competitors swooped in to claim his former loyal customers. Vanessa, always quick to abandon a sinking ship, left him within weeks, finding herself another wealthy benefactor to leech off of. Daniel was alone, humiliated, and barely scraping by. His luxurious lifestyle had been funded entirely by the business, and without it, the expenses piled up. Debts accumulated faster than he could manage, and he had to sell off his prized sports car and downsize to a modest apartment. Meanwhile, Jenna thrived. Her new event planning company took off with surprising speed. With her reputation as the mastermind behind the success of the original venue, clients flocked to her new luxury event space. She called it the Phoenix Ballroom, a symbol of her rebirth from the ashes of her past. One evening, Jenna was preparing for an exclusive charity gala she was hosting when her assistant hurried over with a gleam of excitement in her eyes. "You'll want to see this," the assistant said, handing over a tablet. Jenna looked at the screen, her eyebrows rising as she read the article headline, "Disgraced businessman forced to sell former mansion amid mounting debts." She clicked on the article, and a photo of Daniel standing on the mansion steps, looking defeated, filled the screen. The mansion itself was in disrepair, peeling paint, overgrown gardens, and neglected maintenance. Jenna couldn't help but feel a pang of satisfaction. Despite her triumph, she knew deep down she hadn't wanted him completely ruined, just humbled. Yet, Daniel had always been his own worst enemy, and his reckless arrogance had brought him to this point. As she pondered the situation, an idea struck her, one that made her smile wickedly. With a few quick phone calls, she put her plan into action. A week later, Daniel's phone buzzed with an unexpected call. "Hello," he grunted, not bothering to check the caller ID. "Hi, Daniel. Long time no see." He froze at the familiar voice. "Jenna. Yes, I heard about your little predicament. Thought I'd offer a solution." His pride fought against his desperation. "What the hell do you want?" "To buy the mansion back," Jenna said smoothly. "You know, the one you so proudly kicked me out of." Daniel couldn't believe it. "You're serious?" "Completely. I'll buy it from you at market value. More than enough to cover your debts. It's a win-win, don't you think?" He hesitated. Swallowing his pride was bitter, but he didn't have many options. "Fine," he muttered. "Just make the payment fast. I'm done with that place." "Oh, I'll wire the money immediately," Jenna replied sweetly. "Once it's in my name again, feel free to leave the keys at the gate." The moment he hung up, Daniel felt hollow. Selling the mansion back to Jenna felt like admitting defeat in the most humiliating way possible. But he couldn't deny it. He needed the money. The papers were signed, and Jenna's name once again graced the deed. As Daniel packed the last of his belongings, he couldn't resist one final look at the grand entryway. It felt smaller now, suffocating, stripped of the power he once wielded. On his way out, he noticed a small crowd gathering at the gates. Curiosity got the better of him, and he stuck around long enough to see Jenna arrive, dressed in a sleek black ensemble, confidence radiating from her. The crowd erupted into applause as she waved, and Daniel finally noticed the newly unveiled plaque at the entrance. The Phoenix Estate, a symbol of triumph and rebirth. It hit him like a punch to the gut. Jenna wasn't just reclaiming the mansion, she was making it a monument to her victory over him. The grand reopening would be televised, and the guest list included influential businesspeople, local politicians, and even some celebrities. Jenna was going to turn his former triumph into a symbol of her resurrection. Jenna glanced his way, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Oh, Daniel," she called out. "Thanks for keeping it warm for me." His jaw clenched, and without another word, he walked away, knowing he had been completely and utterly outplayed. As he drove off, he couldn't shake the feeling that Jenna hadn't just taken back the mansion. She had taken back her power. As the event kicked off and the champagne flowed, Jenna gave a brief, heartfelt speech. This house represents more than just bricks and walls. It's a testament to resilience, to rising above betrayal and finding strength in the darkest of times. Today, I stand here not as a victim of circumstance but as a woman who refused to be broken. The crowd erupted into applause, and Jenna couldn't help but smile. The mansion that once symbolized her misery had become a beacon of her triumph. And somewhere in his rundown apartment, Daniel saw the news coverage and finally understood that Jenna had indeed gotten the last laugh, and the victory she so richly deserved. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.